This is Blessed Radio. It's just past 6 p.m. UK time, and this is this spiritual discussion program. I'm Saad in Southeast London, and with me, as usual, is Gregory. Gregory, how are you doing? How's your week, and how's the weather?
The weather is still cold, but it's been fine so far.
Okay, and how are things?
Well, things are moving.
Okay. For me, the weather is dark. The sun hasn't, I think, almost set. I think it's not totally dark yet, but it's been chilly for the last few days. And I'm also good. And what can I say? I've been doing some admin in the last few days, trying to catch up with things. So welcome, listeners, to this spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. Tonight it is, why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? Why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? That's part of a quote from Jesus in the Bible. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. There's one more way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, and that is called blessradio1. That's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat, and you can type in a message with your comments or questions there. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Uprushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Uprushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic for tonight's discussion is, why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? Why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00 44 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one more way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, which is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. And if you go down the homepage, scroll down the homepage, there's a chat box called Bless Chat. You can type in your messages there with any comments or questions. Gregory, you know, I like to look in the dictionary, the meaning of the words in the topic. And really, I thought there was only one word which we really need to check in the dictionary, because some people may not know what that word it means even. So this is the word called, well, let me just repeat the topic again. Why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? So the one word that I thought might need checking the dictionary is the word mote, M-O-T-E. And that in the dictionary it says a tiny piece of substance or a speck. Is there anything you want to say on that definition there, Gregory?
Well, that precisely presents a picture that is very usable.
That's what I thought. It was a very clear definition, and the words are very simple and straightforward. And we can take them literally, in a sense, or metaphorically, because they both make sense. So that's good. Now, just in case somebody has not heard where this phrase comes from, why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? I'm going to read, this is from the Bible, and it is, I must say the actual quote is much longer, but I will read from the Bible, and I think everything will fall into place. So this is a quote of Jesus given in the Sermon on the Mount, and this is in Gospel of Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 to 5. And I'm going to do the modern English translation, rather than Old English. So that, as I said, this is from Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 to 5, with Jesus speaking. Do not judge, so that you may not be judged. For with the judgment you make, for with the judgment you make, you will be judged. And the measure you give will be the measure you get. Why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but do not notice the log in your own eye? Or how can you say to your neighbor, let me take the speck out of your eye, while the log is in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your neighbor's eye. These words, Gregory, Jesus seems to tell us there to look at ourselves first, rather than look at our neighbor or our brother, is how I put it in the topic title. So look at ourselves first. But first I want to ask Gregory, why is it that we are, how can I say, find it easier to look at our neighbor, his actions, and rather than our own?
Maybe it could be that we cannot, through our activities, see, or the challenge is too much to remove the, to deal with our personal problems. So as a consolation, we'll look outside.
Exactly. That was yeah, sorry. Yeah. Carry on, please.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking myself when I was thinking about this question. That it's like we want to, because we don't want to look at ourselves, we want to hide by looking at someone else, which is easier to look at someone else. So let's go back to what Jesus is saying. He's saying that, why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but do not notice the log in your own eye? Or how can you say to them, let me take the speck out of your eye, while the log is in your own eye? The one big point I see there is Jesus pointing to that we see a speck, which is obviously a small thing, in the neighbor, but our own is a log or beam. Some people use the word beam in our own eye. So in that statement, he's pointing that our fault, let's say, is bigger than the neighbor's fault. And I'm just wondering about that. Is that really so, like that? That the fault is that we see in our neighbor, which is only a speck, and yet for us it's a log or much bigger than that. Is that really so? I've been just finding it hard to take that in, that we would point out a small fault in our neighbor or brother, then a fault which is this fault that we have is even bigger.
Well, very simply, it's because the beam or the fault in us is so great that we are unable to perceive correctly, and in that case we are only able to see to a small extent the fault in another, and thus we magnify it.
Thank you for this answer. That really makes sense, you know. because we should know more about ourselves than about the neighbor or our brother, because we are the ones who are doing what we are doing, and and what our neighbor or brother is doing is what they're doing, and they know why they're doing what they're doing. So for us to try to, as you said, judge at the beginning, it says, do not judge, so that you may not be judged. But once you start looking at the other neighbor, then you're starting to judge them. And but it's better, you can look at yourself better than looking at your neighbor, or know more about what's happening with you. So it is making sense to me that to criticize your neighbor, it's do you really know everything what's happening with the neighbor? In your own case, you should know what is happening with you. Sometimes we don't, I know, but mostly you should know. So it makes sense. And of course, Gregory is also pointing out this is hypocrisy. He says, you hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to take out the speck out of your neighbor's eye. So it's like, Gregory, we should focus on our own faults rather than look at other people's faults. Is that right?
It is expected that charity begins from home. And once you have kept your house in order, then you may find time to help others to keep their house in order. If, however, one hasn't kept his or her house in order, how can you then ignore the task which should be of benefit to you and, spend time with others? It doesn't really make any sense. So each person must focus on their personal challenges and know how to deal with it. Only then will they have the necessary experience in advising others. Otherwise, they lack the experience on how to deal with other people's challenges.
Thanks.
You're on mute.
Apologies for that, Gregory. So yes, listeners, I was on mute there, as Gregory said. I want to say, Gregory, I want to think about how do we look at ourselves, our faults, and recognize them or to know them. Now, when you look at, for example, in the physical things, let's say our face and body, there's a mirror. You can look in your mirror, and then can see how you look there. But with regards to your thoughts, words, and deeds, we don't seem to have a mirror for that. So how do we recognize, Gregory, our faults? Is there any such similar thing like a mirror for us? To maybe is it our memories or yeah? Let me ask you to answer that.
Such a question will not be asked of the animals because the animals have their own standards. Neither will such a question be asked to the plants. But to human personalities who have the free will to navigate their paths, such a question is very important. That because it's so important, the free will is granted, but the free will has to be considered a right in terms of the personal intuition which intuitive perceptions arise from the activities of the spirit. When the human personality considers its intuitions, its thoughts, and its activities in deeds, if these three different categories harmonize, and they also harmonize with the laws through which he himself came into existence, these laws which swing in love that has granted him the opportunities to mature. If he or she uses that as a framework, then he or she will have an inkling of the challenges that others face, just like himself. Then sympathy will well up without even asking. But that has not been the case, because there's the indolence, that inability to examine. Many persons don't even know what their intuitions are, but they know their thoughts, or they think they know, and they also can perceive their deeds, the impact of their thoughts on their deeds. However, not many take these things into consideration. They just live from one day to the other without subjecting themselves to personal questions.
Thanks again, Gregory, for this answer you've given there. I was again thinking, as you say, we are not really used to looking at things through our intuition. And I was wondering, maybe it might be easier to consult, let's say, our close people like family, friends, or maybe colleagues, let's say, who we are close with, and ask them to let them to share with us what faults they see in us. And then maybe can, through their, how they see it, you can now, you can even get a taste of what impact you have on others. And then through that, you can, do something about these faults. So is that also a good way to set right these faults?
Whoever is so mature to come to that level will not need to ask others to look out for him for his faults. Many a time, only very few can condescend, in quotes, to that level to ask others to look out for him or her or look at the deeds. So it is most challenging, but it's unnecessary, because you are the best judge for yourself. For when you have set a standard, you have set a task that needs to be fulfilled without harming others in any way, in thoughts and in deeds, and also in one's intuition, then one can say one's striving does not have a negative impact on others. That is the first step. But how many can say that, if at all they consider it?
Thanks for that again, Gregory. So it looks like we have to work on ourselves by ourselves, and not to be so reliant on people around us. I'm thinking, if let's say there are some faults that we are aware of, and we now want to do something to make them good, make good those faults. So, Gregory, if we realize that, should we now apologize to those whom we have harmed, and how do we make amends in this? And it could be many things that we don't even remember that we have done. So maybe how do we go about, Gregory, to make amends of our faults?
The best amends a person may make is a cheerful volition, very cheerful. Many a person who is miserable will accost others and call them miserable. If he or she, however, cheers up, no matter the challenges that they have encountered, then through their activities, they may cheer others up. Because an example is the best way forward. If you, in the challenges you come across every day, are cheerful and calm in response to these challenges, then that is a step forward. Because others who might be observing how you respond to challenges and can see how you yourself has made progress in spite of very challenging times, will like to copy you, will like to emulate you so as to be able to move forward. However, not many are able to build up in a cheerful manner. There is always a grudge there, another grudge there, and this is carried from one day to the other in all their activities. Therefore, how can they make a progress?
Thanks again, Gregory, for this answer. I'm just thinking that yeah, you mentioned the word progress, and is there a way to measure, Gregory, that we are making progress? I'm thinking, I know this might sound a little bit crazy, but do we try to keep a record of our faults and things and monitor that and see that, let's say from today, okay, this is what I've done, and then you see when it comes up again, that you are now aware of it, and you can monitor it like this. It sounds a bit, let's say, crazy, and it sounds quite mechanical even. Is that a way to, by keeping record of our faults and things, is that a way, because then you can be aware of it in front of you straight away. Is that a way to sort of work on yourself?
That is completely counterproductive. A cheerful attitude is the strongest antidote to challenges. For what you yourself just suggested, keeping records of one's faults, these faults manifest in so many different ways, but it's the same fault that is manifesting in different ways. So the records which are kept, or which the individual keeps, is about the same fault that has manifested in a different way. That means the fault is not even understood properly. But there is absolutely no need for that. He or she who, in their activities, expects cheerfulness from others, he or she must be cheerful in their approach to others. Why is this? Many of us have built so many obstacles, so many barriers. Whenever challenges come our way, we have built so many barriers that we don't even know how to consider it. Those challenges only came your way, one, most likely as a reciprocal activity to what has done in the past, or it could be to teach a lesson such that the personality will now know how to deal with challenges. Such can only be dealt with in a cheerful attitude. But ask yourself, where are those who go through challenges with a cheerful attitude? And when many may think, oh, I have overcome this, that is self-deception. There is only one condition: destroy all the obstacles that many have built up in their thoughts, in their rigid attitude, and go out joyfully in your interaction with others. Then find out how it will be. The reciprocal activities from others will tell you how you stand.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this picture that you've painted there. Quite a few key points you've made there. You know, the other people, how they respond to us when we do something, that's a mirror for us, like you say, so we can reflect on that, you know, to realize what's happening. And yes, keeping a record is definitely a mechanical way, I can say, and we want, you know, we don't want to do something artificially. You know, we should live, like you say, with joy, which should come from naturalness rather than artificially trying to force our way in one direction or another. So yes, thank you for that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that: www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we are discussing tonight is, why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? Why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? You can join us in this discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. There is another way you can contact us, which is by going onto the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down the homepage, you will see a chat box called Bless Chat. And there you can type in your message to us. As I mentioned, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number one.com. And there are other places you can also listen to us. The other one is YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box. Bless Radio 1, again the number one there, space, live stream. That's for the live show, which is on Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can listen to the recording of this show also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box. And that's, by the way, next day, the recording you can listen. So as I said, go to youtube.com and type in the search box. Bless Radio 1, that's the number one, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is, why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? And of course, you can listen to the recordings of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number one again. Now, Gregory, we've been talking about how to make amends in regards to our faults. And you gave the way that we should sort of work with joy, just have a joyful, so I can say attitude, let's say, in our approach in everything we are doing. And we know, for example, if you smile, other people automatically will smile back to you. So you can see that encourages, let's say, good response from people. And also it makes you feel automatically joyful too. So that definitely feels right as a way forward. Now, I'm going to ask a slightly different question on it, Gregory. Can we totally eradicate our faults, like permanently? Can we do that? Can we eradicate all our faults? No, or our faults?
Of course we can.
Okay. How's that? I mean, it seems a bit, let me say something on that, because it seems we are not perfect and we keep making, you could say, even mistakes. So it's not even deliberate. Sometimes we will make mistakes. So that faults will happen for me. I was a bit surprised when you answered that, because I thought we will always make mistakes and faults will happen due to that. So, and we're not
your
perfect.
question was, can we
Yes.
eliminate our faults or overcome our faults? And the answer was, of course you can. You yourself did not say you are going to eliminate it in 10 seconds, in 1 second.
Right.
So there was no time limit placed on it. Is it possible? Of course it's possible. The next question could be how? Very simply, start with simple and little things. When you start with the little things, then, because it is the little things that form the structure of big things, then you will find that the challenges which you are expecting will become less and less, because you have found the solution of how to deal with the little things. But no, many never consider the little things. They go to the big things, and it becomes too heavy for them to deal with. So in one's thoughts, in one's intuition, in one's deeds, there should be simplicity and consistency. The individual must clarify within themselves the way forward. And the only way is to be engaged with the simple little things, not the big one. If in your thoughts you are consistent, that before long will translate into the deeds. If in your intuitions you take it in bits, before long, if one is consistent, it will translate into one's thoughts and subsequently into one's deeds. But no, many don't even start from there. They do not wish to because it is too simple and too small. And therefore, you find the scenario in which they are. It is more like the individual is willing to place its roots on that which is big, which is noble. It's encouraged. However, the feeder roots through his thoughts, through the influence of others, through what he or she engages in speech, in what they like to watch, these feeder roots are still anchored in the distorted concepts. Therefore, you find no matter how much effort they make, most of the time it comes to naught. Should the individual wish to make real progress, then he or she must consider the little things first. Calmly and surely, before long, he or she will overcome these challenges because they will then realize that the solution to the big things lies in the little things. And there will be no need to have their feeder roots in other places which tend to attract many a thing which will suppress the health of the whole structure of his or her personality.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer there. Going step by step, taking small steps, it's definitely, you can see you're likely to succeed. Jumping, making big changes or something is not going to work because you might have jumped too far that you'll fall back not soon, not so long later. So it does make sense going step by step, and then you have the confidence that this is working rather than jumping. So I really get that one. Now I'm thinking, Gregory, I know you said take a joyous approach, but I'm also thinking, let's say you're aware of some fault. Let's say some example like where you speak things about another person and then, but now, and maybe you get it wrong or offend the person. Now you're aware of this fault and I'm thinking, should you now, let's say, stop making any, how can I say, corrections about the other person until, let's say, I'm trying to think, because we are told that the fault is bigger in us than the neighbor that we are trying to criticize. So, we already said the focus has to change on us, that we are supposed to amend our faults. So my question is, Gregory, should we just refrain completely to tell our neighbor anything about their faults, or and just purely work on ourselves? Yeah.
The first instance is the wrong concept of one's neighbor. Many consider the neighbor to be another personality. In the first instance, we are our own neighbor. Therefore, we should strive to solve the problem first within ourselves. If that is not the case, how can you help someone to solve a problem when you yourself do not know what the problem is? You yourself are not experiencing the challenge. Only when you have experienced a challenge and has come out of it without destroying yourself, only then will you have the necessary experience to lead someone out of it. Simple example, if you try to go from one place to the other and you get into a ditch, unless you yourself have been in such a ditch, what type of advice will you give to that person in that quagmire? You cannot say, put your leg here or put your foot there, because you don't even know what it is like. Therefore, because you yourself are not experiencing it, one may only send good thoughts to the others to overcome these personal challenges. And most of the time, these challenges are personal. They are personal because it is the individual that needs to know how to respond to these challenges, not others. If, however, he or she starts with little things, before long, it will find that due to his warm or to her warm attitude, many of these challenges, the solution of it, are simpler than they themselves had initially considered it. That doesn't mean that one should not interact with one's neighbor. But how do you understand how your neighbor feels? Or the problem has always been that you ignore your homework and you be looking at others. And basically, it's because the personality has no clue. And that's why they're trying to find out what is happening over there. If genuinely the individual has a solution, then others will approach to ask, how did you deal with it? Unconsciously will approach. If, however, you yourself are a miserable lot, how do you expect others who wish for cheerfulness to approach you, a miserable lot? It's very clear.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer and picture again you've painted there. It really shows that we do need to think deeply before we open our mouth and say things to people, because there is already a lot on our own plate which we need to clear up. So, and that should be the main work. But it doesn't mean there's a ban on helping another. But first, we need to sort out whatever fault or problem that you have, and then you can help with that problem to the other person, the same problem. Otherwise, you know, who are you to say something? So thanks for that. Now, I'm thinking, with regards to this, you know, opening our mouth and, you know, potentially criticizing other people. Now, Gregory, if we are now aware of this, let's say a particular fault, do we I'm just trying to think of how to say that. Should we? I'm trying to think about this here. I know, Greg, you said in our approach we should be taking a joyous approach, but should we be cautious as well in, you know, because they do say think before you speak, you know, and what I'm trying to say, Gregory, we should be try to be natural, so we don't like plan and pre-calculate everything that every action we're going to take. That's what I would have. So I'm trying to think: is there not a contradiction, but is there by being careful or cautious in our approach, maybe we will not, you know, not have the right experience, if I can say, to sort of clear our faults. So by being cautious, it's like you're trying to avoid mistakes, you know, and so in our attitude, Gregory, of, you know, yes, I agree we should have a joyous approach, but should it be also be like, you know, thinking about it as we before we open our mouth as well. So it's like, I don't want to use the word calculating because that's not, yeah. And how can I put that? So Gregory, just can you self-differentiate between having this happy and joyous approach to life in, you know, dealing with things, and can you also should you be cautious in a way as well somehow, or these are two incompatible ways?
Being cautious is also part of one's happiness. Being cautious means that the individual quietly weighs what he or she has observed deep within, spiritually, and in response to the challenges, starts with very little things rather than just jumping into it. So caution is welcomed. It's welcomed in a sense because it shows that the individual is involved in striving to find a solution to a particular problem, and at the same time is engaging with this challenge in a step-by-step manner and not just rushing into it.
Thanks for that, Gregory. Another point I want you to look at is how do we react to our faults? Should we cry, laugh, or reflect?
When one is in pain, when the individual is in physical pain, that individual responds to it in agony. Therefore, if the individual now is in mental pain, in all naturalness, the response will be or will manifest in mental agony. However, that does not mean he or she should permit that personal challenge to be an obstacle to making progress or in the relationship with others. That should never be. Why? Because we're others to follow the reverse by allowing their personal challenges to make them so miserable and become unsure. It will not augur well for both parties. But the problem has always been, unless it is physical pain, many don't even consider that their activities is painful to others. They just assume it, that everything is okay, until there is a response otherwise. Many a time, there are the assumptions which the individual has made, which assumptions they have considered is helpful to others, without themselves really subjecting these assumptions to scrutiny. Many times, others, some people might say, okay, I'll take a shorter route because I think I'll get there earlier. The challenge has always been that personal indolence in making the necessary efforts to search for a holistic approach. Whereas in their personal lives, they never consider this. They just want something to be done very quickly and then they go back as it were. So once physical pain is involved, many a person becomes cautious. Once the mental pain is there, which does not affect the individuals or they are not aware of it, then they have no caution. Only through experiences will the individual find out that which is beneficial to it or not. Because no matter how much he or she is advised based on the experiences of others, these things are ignored. It's like the soldiers. If you tell them, okay, be careful about this, no, they want to experience it. So the human personality should be permitted to experience and then hopefully learn from it.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer there. It's a lot you can say, to ponder over, but you feel really good to have to, to want to do that. So that's thank you for that. I just want to let the listeners know, You're listening to Bless Radio. This is the spiritual discussion program on Tuesday evenings from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic we are discussing tonight is, why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? Why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's another way you can get in touch with us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, and that is blessradio1, the number 1.com. If you go there and you scroll down the home page, you will see a chat box called Bless Chat. There you can type in your message with any comments or questions. And as I've mentioned, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1 there, space live stream. That's for our live show, which is broadcast on Tuesday evenings from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can listen to the recording of this show the next day also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is, why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows as well, also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. Again, that's the number 1 there. Now, Gregory, I would like to read again from the Bible with this quote again from this time it's from a different part of the Bible about the quote from Jesus, why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? So this time it's going to be reading from Luke chapter 6, verse 37 to 42, which is titled Judging Others. Stop judging, and you'll never be judged. Stop condemning, and you'll never be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A large quantity, pressed together, shaken down, and running over will be put into your lap, because you'll be evaluated by the same standard with which you evaluate others. He also told them a parable. One blind person can't lead another blind person, can he? Both will fall into a ditch, won't they? A disciple is not better than his teacher, but everyone who is fully trained will be like his teacher. Why do you see the speck in your brother's eye, but fail to notice the beam in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, "Brother, let me take the speck out of your eye," when you don't see the beam in your own eye? You hypocrite, first remove the beam from your own eye, and then you'll see clearly enough to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Gregory, I would like to go through, let's say, the first words in this quote I've taken from Luke chapter 6, verse 37 to 42. I'm just going to read it, that part, so we can go, like step by step, as they say. So it says, "Stop judging, and you will never be judged. Stop condemning, and you'll never be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A large quantity, pressed together, shaken down, and running over will be put in your lap, because you'll be evaluated by the same standard with which you evaluate others." So, Gregory, in these words of Jesus, I can see it's like 100% justice. In whatever you do, the same will happen to you. And I'm thinking, so it's like we create our own fate or our own fruit. The results of our deeds bring the equivalent fruit. Just like you could say science, everything is like balanced and equal somehow. So here we are seeing that what Jesus is saying in terms of our behavior, just stop judging. And it's quite, how can I say, very high expectation or standard that Jesus is asking. Stop judging, stop condemning, and forgive. So, and I'm wondering, Gregory, that how does this happen, Gregory? That, in a sense, you can't understand it, but say you are judging somebody or condemning somebody. Is it, when you do that, how does this response come back to us? Because it may not be the same person that we are condemning that may respond. They might not even react. Yeah. So I'm wondering, Gregory, how can, we say in science, they say when every action, there's a reaction. And even in Newton's law, it says it's equal and opposite reaction. So my question then, Gregory, is, what is bringing that reaction when we take an action?
The questions you have posed need to be examined carefully. That attitude of the judge, if a judge wishes to be fair to all, then the judge must have the necessary evidence before himself or herself. To have the necessary evidence, the need is there to consider not only the visible manifestations, which manifestations are perceptible to the five senses, but also what lies behind these manifestations. That means the thoughts, the motive that lies behind these manifestations, because he is a judge or she is a judge. And finally, the intuitions that may lie behind these motives in thoughts. These are three different categories. Fair is fair. How many a person has access to the thoughts, the motive within the thoughts, and the intuitions? Almost nil. So in that case, it means that the personality who is now a judge only considers partially that which he or she has been presented with. So that already says it all. Partial evidence. For a judge who needs a holistic approach must, as a matter of conscience, as a matter of certainty, must consider the motives behind these manifestations. Which manifestations could be one's behavior, could be so many different things. But there are three different categories. Which categories may resonate with one another or not? Only when that is considered carefully will that person be in a position to make any pronouncement. But that is never the case. Everything is done superficially, and therein lies the problem. For in superficiality, pronouncements are made which incriminates an innocent personality. That being the case, in reciprocal activity, here or hereafter, sooner or later, in accordance with the laws of creation, that law of creation which resonates in reciprocal activity and in the attraction of homogeneity, the returns are certain to come now or later. Therefore, one can now perceive the whole scenario that one has now been involved with, what one has encumbered himself or herself in. And therefore, it is advised, don't be too hasty in judgment, but reflect deep within yourself. The challenge has always been that many are just too lazy, or they have been too indolent in their vigilance, in their alertness, to be able to calmly sense what the motives are, to be able to articulate the motives, which motives help in the precipitation of these activities. And that being the case, because it's too challenging, it is swept away and a judgment made. Now ask yourself, where are the judges who are able to penetrate into the evidence right?
Thanks again, Gregory, for your answer there. I now want to look at, how can I say, how the world is, in today. And the scenario I'm thinking about now is every day in the news, especially now, let's say lots out of the part of the world are going through elections, or planned elections are coming, and the government and the politicians are, and different parties and so on, are sort of gearing up for this battle. And these politicians and so on are making statements. Well, I will say, Gregory, they're always looking to criticize the opponents, even the ones who are in government, to blame them for things, and or even, let's say, other groups in the, let's say, country or wherever, that seem to be, according to the government opinion, is that it is they're the cause of the problems. And almost like the people in power who make the decisions, or everybody makes decisions, but let's say the ones who have more power, they should be able to sort of handle things, but it seems they are not. So, and the point I'm trying to make here, Gregory, is that people are looking to find faults, blaming, as I said, which is, of course, the blame is not on them, it's somebody else outside. Now, I want to say, Gregory, with this type of tactic, which is almost like a distraction, not to look at us, look at someone else, or in the past, it would be, some people would call it divide and rule, they would say. Can we really trust this type of politician to run a country, or is it they're really only after their own interest? It's almost like with this dirty politics, if I can call it like that, is trying to fool the public, even you see there's something, they conflate different issues. If I give example, so there's supposedly in UK, we are having, well, the wars are going on between Israel and Gaza, and there's a lot of effect around the world. And here in UK, there's claims of anti-Semitism, Islamophobia happening, and so on. But it all, how can I say, the way it is presented, you think, is that really happening like this? Or are people trying to stir something up? Let's say the majority of the example I want to give is there are demonstrations happening in UK, and there's a group within this demonstrations of a small percentage of people causing, maybe they are making anti-Semitic statement or something, so they're causing trouble, and yet the whole marching, the people who are protesting are being banded with the same label. That is like the way it is being presented, let's say. So, Gregory, my question is, how can we see the reality when people are talking like this?
May I ask, which reality are you referring to here? Is it the reality of all the parties, or the reality of what is happening, because people have different perspectives. And as long as they have different perspectives, of course, they will want to see things through their own personal perspectives. And it is their personal perspectives which they hold as the framework of reality. The question is, which reality are we discussing here?
That's a very good point, Gregory, what you're saying, because I know people can't help but look at from their side, so what is they agree with, and if that's their reality, and if something they disagree with, that's not the reality. So it's like a biased. We are biased. So what reality am I referring to? Well, I want it to be the unbiased, rather than, which you mentioned earlier about being in judging, you said being fair. You have to look at, so yes, Gregory, maybe, is it possible to see reality, Gregory, at all? Because are we always, you could say, prejudiced or biased in our way of seeing things? Can we be unbiased? Let me say it like that. Can we see reality in an unbiased way? Or is it always colored because of our bias?
Of course, it's possible to perceive reality in an unbiased way. Very simply, just as individual A wishes to improve his lot, himself, herself, in all possible ways, so also are others. Therefore, it becomes imperative that the individuals who are striving to improve their lots in a financial situation, their lots in a moral situation, their lots in all the good upbuilding that they can consider. They should also know others are doing the same. And therefore, there must be respect. At best, they should cooperate in one for all and all for one. Then it becomes a win-win scenario. As long as the challenge remains in which one party does not wish to see another party making progress to improve himself or herself, then conflict arises. And the source of this conflict has always been the same: indolence, lack of vigilance, the interpretation of what has been handed to them in a very narrow way. In that case, you will find that many will say it is our rights. There are no rights. There are tasks to be fulfilled. Only when tasks have been accomplished are rights. Only then can one talk of rights. Each personality here on earth has been born into this earth to improve himself or herself. So is every other person. However, to debar another from improving himself or herself, that in itself is very wrong in the sense that you do not wish others to become noble of character. If you don't wish people to become noble of character, how then can you sleep in peace? Because through your activities, you precipitate that which is ignoble. So it is not as challenging or as difficult as many think. It is not challenging when the laws of creation are considered from that perspective. Then it becomes clear that just as you have the right, the duty to improve yourself, so are others. And the only way of moving forward, because we only have here on earth the earth through which to do that, is to cooperate. After all, the winds wouldn't say, oh, we will not blow from this country to the other country. You see, material, the winds blow where they need to blow in accordance with the laws of motion, with the laws of creation. They do not take human consideration into this. The winds blow. So, one should learn from that. Like has been stressed, the problem, the conflict has always been the lack of understanding, right, of what has been handed to many persons. They view it in a very narrow, myopic way, and they interpret it that way. As long as that is, then there will be war, there will be conflict. There is no need for such, for there is the realization that whether we accept it or not, the laws of creation, laws of nature will always return to the individual that which he himself has placed or has initiated. It will not return to the individual that which he himself or herself is not a shareholder. That means did not initiate it. Whether the returns come within the next 5 minutes or the next hour or in 100 years' time, that is immaterial. But definitely it will come. And it is because many always ignore these laws of returns. That is why they think in their narrow way they can get away with it. No one can ever, as long as that personality is in creation.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this picture again. There's more I want to ask about this, but before I continue, I'd like to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. That's www.grail, Grail Message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we are discussing tonight is, why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? Why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's another way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down the homepage, you'll see a chat box called Bless Chat. And in there, you can type in a message with your questions or comments. And as I said, we are broadcasting on blessradio1, the number 1.com. Also, you can listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, again the number 1 there, space live stream. Now this is for the live show, which is on Tuesday evenings from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can also listen to the recording of this show, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com. That's on the next day, the recording. So go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1. That's again the number 1, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight it is, why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? Of course, you can also listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. Again, that's the number 1. Now, Gregory, you mentioned about the, indolence as a, how can I say, barrier or obstacle to our, overcoming our faults or working on our faults. That's, you could say, from our side. But out in the world, we know there's, I already mentioned about politics, there's dirty business going on there, and people can be basically dishonest, making promises they're not going to fulfill. It's just to attract the votes. And it seems even that the people are, but I don't know if I can use the word attracted, but they seem to say that, it's supposed to be honesty is supposed to win, and not dishonesty. But it seems that dishonesty seems to be having a stronger than the truth is. And that made me wonder, Gregory. So is good life, living a good life, is it meant to be harder than living a crooked life, which is easier? Because, meaning, it's because as I said, to stray on the straight and narrow, one needs to really, be careful and watch, your way. But to fall astray to the, how can I say, crooked life, it seems to be easier. Is that right understanding there, Gregory?
You said good life. and crooked life.
Yes.
On what framework are we referring to that which is good or that which is crooked? Because to have said it means there must be a framework.
Right.
If it is just assumed without a framework, then it therefore means that each individual will consider goodness and crookedness from their individualistic perspectives. If, however, that is not the case, there is a framework, then it is the framework through which that which is good or crooked must be judged. The framework which is referred to here are the framework of the laws of nature. Which laws of nature or laws of creation returns to each individual that which he or she has placed in creation. So, if he or she has placed happiness and joyfulness in creation, then in all naturalness, that person, sooner or later, will have to encounter happiness and joyfulness. If it's otherwise, they have placed sorrow, then sorrow will visit them because they have put out that channel. It started from within them. So, on the one hand, you have a baseless framework in which the individual likes to assume things from their own perspective, and on the other hand, a framework through which all that exists rests. What is stressed here is the framework through which all that exists rests. That should be the invariant framework. That should be the beneficial framework for all. So in that case, you will find those people who wish to sink later, they go about in such crooked ways because before long it will visit them and then there will be very little to talk about because then they have ceased to exist. The tables then are turned. If, however, that has not been the case, they have been considerate, then they would have sown the seed of consideration for others, which will return to them. But it has always been, we don't really care, which is lack of vigilance. We are not alert until it hits us. We perceive of suffering, of sorrow in other places, and it's ignored. Only when that sorrow visits us, only then do we wake up to confront that which is, precipitating the sorrow and the wickedness. That has always been. All one needs to do is to look at the activities of men. Not far back, less than 100 years ago, where some other people were being persecuted so terribly. It was done singly, and many who would have raised their voices kept quiet until that which is sorrowful and that which is evil visited them. Only then did they wake up. But those they should have united with to fight that which is ignoble, those ones had already been decimated. One will consider that mankind would have learned the necessary lessons. But no, that is not the case. Many who have suffered under such have never learned the lessons and even go so far as to inflict such pain on others. Then you ask yourself, have lessons been learned? In every scenario, the need is there to learn the necessary lessons. Because if the lessons are not learned, then failure is bound to come sooner rather than later. So human spirits have a free will. That they should never forget. It is how they use their free will not only to improve of their lot, but also to improve of the lot of others. That is what counts in nature, in creation. Because to whom much has been granted, much is demanded in accordance with the creative laws of nature, of creation.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this explanation there. In regards to the ignorance that we have, there's a framework. First, you pointed out about the framework. What is the framework that we are assessing good and crooked life? And then the ignorance of that framework, it of course will lead to what decisions and actions that we do take, as human beings. So now there's this point of ignorance. It could be that people are, let's say, only concerned about their own life and not about others in their day-to-day sort of life, which of course doesn't correspond with what you say, all for one and one for all. So, and that maybe they are ignorant about that, Gregory, that people just think about their own life and not to worry about other people, because if they can, let's say they got enough on their plate to deal with than to concern themselves with others. So my question on that, Gregory, is this: are we meant to? How can I say? When we started earlier on, we said that you can't judge or you cannot criticize someone else, until you have dealt with your own faults. So in using that as an reference, can we say that until we have sort of get our life to work ourselves, that we should not bother with other fellow human beings' troubles?
I'm not quite sure if that was the precise discussion, in the sense that for someone to be able to judge, that person should have not only the perspectives of the manifestations, which manifestations he or she is able to deal with the five senses, but also the motives, the thought processes, the maturity of their thoughts, and above all, the category of one's intuitions. So, if one looks at the intuitions, one looks at the thoughts, one looks at the final manifestations, and the possible returns that abound in this scenario, then the possibility of fair judgment, because it is not partial anymore, since not only one part is considered, but is holistic, then a judgment is possible. The question is, how many have that innate ability to be able to do that? That is the challenge. That does not mean one should not judge, but one should develop himself or herself to a state where he or she is able to perceive deeply and in all simplicity. It is best if one starts with himself, in judging himself by considering his or her activities which are perceptible, the motives behind his thoughts or her thoughts, and then one's intuition. In doing that, in simple things, before long, the individual is able to take steps, which steps will lead it to greater heights. In starting with little small things, cautiously, then the individual is able to build up to larger things. That is the framework that each personality may use.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer and picture there. What I'm seeing there, ignorance is not an excuse. We say ignorance of the law is not an excuse for, breaking it or something like that. So that shows that we must be, how can I say, very serious in discovering or realizing what this framework that you said, we have to find to assess if something is good or evil or crooked. It must be, this framework has to be there like a foundation, so that we can, like you said, judge aright or see aright in a situation. Now, there's another angle I'm thinking about, Gregory, which is, you could call it money or resources, or people who are powerful, let's say, and they, again, I want to go back to the sort of political type of situation where there's a government, but they have allies with maybe the corporations or whatever, which have resources and money to influence the government to go a particular way. That's what I'm saying is the powerful are running the government in a sense. That's what I'm saying. And if which gives them advantages, over the ones who do not have such resources. And then we're talking about, we want, we could say justice and fairness. But sometimes you're wondering if that can be achieved. The people say there should be like equality of opportunity with talent, somebody who has talent and ability, not about somebody who has the advantage of these resources, so which can give somebody an advantage. So my question there, Gregory, is can people with the talent and not the resources, as somebody else who may not have so much talent but does have the resources, financial resources in a way, and can they succeed in this life? Because we want to say there should be a fairness, there should be a justice, and so yeah, my question is, can you succeed without these sort of financial advantage resources if you have talent and ability, or is it only the ones who have the advantage of resources that can be successful?
Viewed aright, talent in itself is the biggest resource. It is how it is used that may bring benefits or the lack of benefits. Someone who is talented in playing a guitar, or who is talented in singing, like you have in the earth, or who is talented in writing poems or writing novels. J.K. Rowling is there. Is that talent not translated into resources? So talent itself is a resource. What you yourself have described are those who are using their resources in such a way that it does not bring benefit to all. It doesn't have to be financial. There are many who, or in some countries, that not almost in all countries, that may have as much financial resources, but they lack the health resource. That means the full use of their physical body. That does not grant them the opportunities to work effectively. Of course, they have financial resources, but they lack something in another direction. So one should not attribute everything to finance or money. What many should consider is how the resource, be it talent, natural talent, or otherwise, it is how that resource is used. If that resource is used to permit others of manifold opportunities, then it is used rightly. If you have a doctor who not only treats people, but also engages in training others, then it brings benefit to all. Because before long, he or she may not be in the position to do that anymore, and he or she may be unwell. And at that old age, who is then going to act as a doctor competent enough to take care of him or her? It's the same with all skills, all talents. That there must be continuity. And that already presents us that we must strive to be the best. We must provide opportunities for others to come up and be able to direct the affairs of the state in such a manner that it will bring benefit to all. Else, if we do not, before too long, we ourselves may have as much financial resources, but our health may not be that strong. And no matter how much we pay, maybe even 5 or 10 billion or a trillion, we will not have any access to the health care to be able to get us out of the health challenge. So in all these cases, it is the how. The how, if it is based on the framework of the laws of creation, which requires continuity, not just stopgap, and also ensures that it brings benefit to all. There is no one who is not talented. It depends on how that personality, the scenario which he or she is in order to be able to bring up, to cultivate these noble talents.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this really important answer and, explanation. It really clarifies, this picture of ability, talent, and resources, and that we have, and how to use them. We've come to the end of the show, listeners. Hope you've enjoyed the discussion on the topic, why do you look at the mote in your brother's eye? It's been quite a wide-ranging discussion. Now, just like to end with the reading from the Grail Message, which is the foreword of the Grail Message, titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this in the form of ready-made opinions of others only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will. and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore, awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Aptrushin. Dear listeners, if you want to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a very beautiful week.
Thank you. The same from me, listeners. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic. I wish you a great week. Good night.